Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So last year I made this video comparing these three handhelds to see if there was a clear winner. Well, since then there have been a few updates, refreshes, and a few new contenders have appeared. So let's take a look at them and see how they stack up. We'll be taking a look at the Lenovo Legion Go, SteamDeck, ROG Ally, Nintendo Switch OLED, and while not a standalone handheld, the PlayStation Portal. I would have liked to include the MSI Claw and Iron Neo 2S, but I couldn't get my hands on them in time for this video. On the face of it, these devices share a lot of the same features, ports, layouts, with tweaks here and there, but essentially they're screens with controls on either side. So let's start looking at the overall design. The Legion Go from Lenovo is the newest handheld on our list. It's also the heaviest at 854 grams, or about 1.9 pounds, which is a significant increase from the SteamDeck and the ROG at 669 and 608 grams respectively, and a far cry from the Switch and the PlayStation Portal, which are 422 and 529. The Legion Go's hefty weight is noticeable, especially during long play sessions, which may explain some of the design choices Lenovo made. It takes some design cues from the Nintendo Switch. Notably, the kickstand is reminiscent of the Switch OLED, and the removable True Strike controllers on each side like the Joy-Con. I think these are great additions to any handheld and are missed on the Ally and SteamDeck. I'd like to see them as an option on future devices. They give you more options for how to play, something that's missed with the SteamDeck, Ally, and the Portal. The Legion Go adds its own twist with FPS mode, which in combination with this puck allows you to use the right controller as a vertical mouse. This mode, as the name suggests, helps it make it easier for you to aim your favorite FPS games and navigate the Windows 11 UI. Ergonomically, all these devices have learnt from the shortcomings of the Switch and have to varying degrees some sort of integrated grips in their design, helping make them more comfortable to hold for long periods without the need for extra accessories. I think in this aspect the Portal wins out. Its design is based on the PS5 DualSense controller and is the most comfortable to hold for a prolonged period, and one that works with the largest range of hand sizes. The face button placement is similar, with 3 out of the 5 opting for asymmetric thumbsticks like on the Xbox controller, the Portal matching the DualSense's lower placement, and the SteamDeck placing them higher to make way for the trackpads. On the back, the 3 portable handheld PCs have buttons that can be programmed and mapped for extra functions in-game. Speaking of portability, the lighter, slimmer Switch has the clear advantage. It's much easier to carry around while traveling or out of the house, and it's also convenient to pack away when not in use. Conversely, the bulk and weight of the Legion Go do not make it a good travel companion. The detachable controllers help, but only in situations where you can comfortably sit the main unit down. The built-in stand is useful for watching content like YouTube or Netflix when you're not in the mood for gaming. In contrast, the SteamDeck and the Portal lack stands, and I'm still not sold on the one that comes with the ROG Ally. The biggest factor that will probably determine which handheld you get is the price. There are some caveats, and you will have to keep in mind that apart from the Legion Go and the Portal, the other 3 devices have variants. And actually a bigger point is that the Portal, which is £199, needs a PS5 console to work. So if you don't already have a PS5, you need to think about the price of the console as well, which at the time of recording is about £499. The Legion is the most expensive at about £699. There are 3 versions of the Nintendo Switch. The Lite is $199, the standard or OG Switch is $230, and the Switch OLED is $309. All are slightly different, and if you want to know more about them, then check out this video where I break each one of them down. I've linked it in the top corner and down in the description, right next to that subscribe button. Valve has since released an OLED version of the SteamDeck and phased out the 2 lower LCD tiers that were available. The new base is the 256GB LCD at $349, the 512GB OLED is $479, and the 1TB OLED is $569. The Ally also comes in 2 versions, differentiated by the chipset, the Z1 and the Z1 Extreme, and the Z1 Extreme is now £100 cheaper at $599. Okay, let's talk specs. Like I mentioned before, the Portal needs a PS5 to work, as it's only a streaming accessory for the console. It doesn't have any RAM or storage. In terms of processing power, it's equipped with a budget chip that's not high powered, as it relies on the PS5 to handle the heavy duty tasks. Since the Portal's purpose is to stream games from the PlayStation 5 using Sony's Remote Play service, it primarily requires chips capable of managing data connection, controller input, audio and video output. The Switch has an NVIDIA Tegra X1 chip running at about 1.02 GHz with a total of 4 GB of DDR4 RAM, a Maxwell-based NVIDIA GPU that runs between 307 and 768 MHz, depending on which mode you're in, docked or handheld. The top-end SteamDeck is the same performance-wise as the LCD variant, but has the newer 6nm AMD APU versus the 7nm found in the previous versions, which offers some benefits to battery life, which we'll touch on later. It's a custom AMD chip with 16GB of RAM, and the chip combines the CPU and the GPU, so there isn't a discrete graphics card, but Valve has compared it to a Radeon RX 6000 series running between 1 and 1.6 GHz. The ROG Ally and Legion have the same AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme processor clocked up to 5.1 GHz, and this is paired with 16GB of DDR5 RAM. With the Portal relying on the PS5 for processing power, it's not a contender in this category. The Switch very much shows its age, but holds its own when compared to these handheld PCs, though that is more to do with the games rather than its actual processing power. The Legion and the Ally outperform the SteamDeck, offering higher, more consistent frame rates. And if you want a more in-depth look at those numbers, I'll link some videos down below. When it comes to displays, the Legion Go has an 8.8-inch 16:10 IPS panel with a max resolution of 2560 by 1600, 144Hz refresh rate, and a peak brightness of up to 500 nits. There is an argument to be made about it being overkill for a screen this size, especially as many games will run better at lower resolutions without a notable dip in quality, but it's also nice to look at. Very few, if any, games will run at 144Hz. ROG has a 7-inch 16:9 IPS panel. The max resolution is 1920 by 1080 and has a 120Hz refresh rate. Again, that frame rate is a nice to have, but I wouldn't imagine many games making the most of it on this device. But having the option to turn it down is welcome. The SteamDeck OLED has a 7.4-inch 1280 by 800 panel with a 90Hz refresh rate. This screen is a big and welcome upgrade from the LCD. With HDR content, you can get up to 1000 nits peak brightness and 600 nits on SDR. It's a fantastic screen. The LCD screen that I have on this model works well, and in a world where I haven't seen the OLED, will be completely fine. The Portal has an 8-inch 60Hz 1080p panel that looks bright, crisp, and sharp when your signal strength is good, but does pale in comparison to the better calibrated and more accurate screens from other devices. This is also an LCD panel, which is a step back considering the PlayStation Vita had an OLED screen. The Switch OLED has a 7-inch 1280 by 720 OLED panel that holds up well against the other devices, offering rich colors and good contrast. On paper, it's not the brightest screen at only 400 nits peak brightness, but I think being an OLED panel helps mitigate some of that. Last time I said the thinner bezels and the higher screen to body ratio of the Switch do make the display feel bigger than it is, especially when compared to the SteamDeck and the Ally, which is still true. Both look good, in particular the SteamDeck OLED, but it's hard to ignore that 8.8-inch monster on the Legion. That's a lot of screen real estate for such a device. It's worth mentioning that apart from the Portal, all these devices work docked if you want the big screen experience. When docked and plugged in, these devices are free to draw more power and gain more performance. In dock mode, the Switch OLED is locked to 1080p 60Hz. The SteamDeck is capable of 60Hz at 4K, 120Hz at 1440, and 240 at 1080p. This will depend on the screen that you're using and the game you're playing. The Ally can also hit 4K 60 on its own, but you have to lower your settings to reach those, and if you truly want to max it out, you'll need an external GPU. Same goes for the Legion Go. For audio, normally when I play handheld, it's because I'm traveling, the TV is occupied, or I'm in a room with other people, so I have headphones on, whether it's earphones, full-on headset, or some earbuds. All the devices have a 3.5mm port, so if you're wired, you're all set. But the Portal doesn't support Bluetooth, instead of opting for the proprietary PlayStation Link for wireless audio, which is currently only available on the PlayStation Explore earbuds and headset. With the speakers, the SteamDeck, Ally, and Switch all have front-facing speakers, but the Legion and the Portal speakers are at the top of the device, which is counterintuitive because when the device is being used normally, the speakers are tilted away from you, making them sound worse. The Ally has spatial audio from Dolby, which makes it more immersive and my favorite out of the lot, but the others are more than adequate. Now, let's talk about battery life. Several factors affect it, and the biggest being what you're playing. The more demanding processor-heavy titles will drain your battery faster, and playing time varies from user to user. Typically, I get between 5 to 9 hours of playtime on the Switch and about 2 to 8 hours on the LCD SteamDeck. It's worth noting that the OLED SteamDeck has better battery life, with some reporting between 3 and 12 hours, thanks to the bigger battery, better power efficiency from the OLED screen, and the 6nm APU. Both the Ally and the Legion average between 1 and 3 hours, somewhat defeating the purpose of having a portable handheld device. And both of them run full Windows 11, and I imagine a large amount of that battery goes to all those processes running in the background. Sony states that the portal should get between 6 to 8 hours of gameplay, but my own experience is close to 4 to 5 hours on average. Okay, so storage. This is another category that the portal sits out because it has no storage. It streams whatever's on your PS5. The Switch OLED has 64GB of flash memory. All three SteamDecks have NVMe SSDs, which have faster read-to-write times, come in 256, 512, and 1TB variants. The Ally and the Legion have 512 NVMe M.2 SSDs, both of which can be upgraded, and all four devices have micro SD card slots for storage expansion. For me, all the systems are in the same boat. The first-party Switch games are relatively lightweight by today's standards, but the multi-platform titles will take up a fair chunk of storage. Considering that the OG Switch and the Lite both come in 32GB as standard, an SD card is a must-have if you want an old digital library. The Switch has one benefit over the others: game cards. The SteamDeck, Legion Go, and the Ally have no physical media. All your games are downloaded from Steam, Game Pass, Epic Game Store, etc. So if you bought the base tier 64GB SteamDeck, you'll run into the same problems as the Switch when you try and download certain titles, like Baldur's Gate, which is 150GB. If you're playing mostly AAA games, then even the 512GB won't give you an expansive library either. When it comes to the software, the OS, the Nintendo Switch, Steam Deck, and the Portal have, in my opinion, the easiest user interfaces. I'm not the biggest fan of the PS5 UI, but getting around it makes sense and is relatively hassle-free. The Switch UI is simple and easy to use with no frills, and the Steam Deck has a unified console-like experience. It takes some time to get used to, especially when you start to dive into shortcuts, but it's worth the effort. My issue with the Ally and the Legion is Windows 11. It's just not designed to work well in this form factor. The trackpad and FPS mode on the Legion do their bit to help navigation, and when they're docked with the mouse and keyboard plugged in, they're absolutely fine. I genuinely think that the Metro UI from Windows 8 would be a better option for this form factor, and I hope that these rumors of a Microsoft/Xbox handheld are true, and they come with a revised OS that will better serve these devices. On top of Windows, you have Armory Crate and Legion Space running. They do their best to offer a console-like interface, but you still have to deal with Windows to get to them. When it comes to the games, the Ally, Steam Deck, and the Legion have access to vast libraries of games, thanks to Steam. Plus, the benefit of running Windows is the various other marketplaces you gain access to, like Epic, Ubisoft Plus, and Xbox Game Pass. As a consumer, this is great. I have options and can take advantage of sales and deals from multiple marketplaces so I get the best price. The PlayStation Portal has access to your library of PS5 games, and the Switch, technically being the weakest, misses out on a lot of major AAA releases that the other systems get. Saying that though, Nintendo easily has the most widely recognized and loved roster of exclusive IPs. So, which one stands out as the clear winner for you? The Nintendo Switch OLED? Portability-wise, it's by far the easiest to carry, making it ideal for on-the-go gaming. The OLED screen offers rich colors, good contrast, though it's not the brightest on the list. Its battery life is commendable, offering between 5 and 9 hours depending on usage. And when it comes to price, there are 3 versions to choose from, so there's a Switch for every budget. Or do you go for the OLED? Performance-wise, the Steam Deck specs offer a robust gaming experience. The new OLED screen is a significant upgrade with impressive brightness and color accuracy. The battery life is much improved with the OLED, giving you between 3 and 12 hours, and portability-wise, though heavier than the Switch, is still very manageable for travel. The price is competitive, and with different storage options, it is a versatile choice. Or do you go for the ROG Ally? Performance-wise, it has that Ryzen Z1 Extreme processor that offers high performance with consistent frame rates. Display is a 7-inch IPS panel with 120Hz refresh rate, which may be a bit much for this form factor, but if you have it, why not? Portability-wise, it's lighter and more portable than the Legion Go and the Steam Deck, and the battery life may be a bit underwhelming, averaging between 1 and 3 hours. The price is mid-range, and with solid performance makes it a great choice for power users. The Lenovo Legion Go, performance-wise, the same Z1 Extreme processor as the ROG Ally. Display, the largest screen at 8.8 inches with that 144Hz refresh rate. Arguably overkill for most games, but again, if you've got it, why not? Ergonomically, it's offering innovative design features like the detachable controllers and FPS mode. Battery life is similar to the Ally, averaging between 1 and 3 hours. Portability, its heft makes it less portable, better suited for home use, and this is the most expensive option, but with the unique features, it may justify the cost for some people. And lastly, we have the port. Design-wise, it's the most comfortable to hold. It feels like you're holding a PS5 controller. The 8-inch 1080p panel is bright and sharp, though not as impressive as others. Functionally, it's a streaming accessory for the PS5, lacking independent processing power. Battery life is very average, between 4 and 5 hours, and price-wise, in comparison to the others on this list, is very affordable but requires a PS5 to work, adding to the overall cost if you don't already have one. Each handheld device brings something unique to the table. The Nintendo Switch shines with its portability and its exclusive games, making it the best choice for those who want a versatile, travel-friendly device. The SteamDeck offers great balance of performance and visual quality, whilst the ROG Ally combines high performance with better portability. The Lenovo Legion Go stands out for its innovative features, though its weight may be a drawback for some. And lastly, the PlayStation Portal is an excellent companion for PS5 owners wanting to extend their gaming experience without breaking the bank. Ultimately, the best choice depends on your specific needs and preferences, whether it's portability, exclusive titles, high performance, or innovative features. It's great that we have so many options available right now, with potentially more on the way. Let me know in the comments below which one you would pick, or if you already have one of these, what's your experience been like? Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching.